Upgrade your shit.
Hey, what's up? I'm Nana, one of the Upgrade guys, and today we're going to look at wrist extension. If we're going to train wrist extension, the first thing I would do is I have you do wrist cars. When you do wrist cars, you would bend your elbow to about 90 here. I want you to pretend that this forearm is a beam of light shining up to the ceiling. We don't ever want that beam of light to move. First thing I would do is show you my palm, which would be wrist extension, and then I would sweep my fingertips in towards the midline. It's important at this point that we see the palm and the forearm. I'm going to come back to wrist flexion. I'm going to start to point my fingertips away from me as I come back to wrist extension. Then I will simply reverse. When I get to this transition here, when I take my fingertips to point towards my midline, I want to be careful because a lot of times instead of moving our wrist into ulnar deviation, what we will do is we will go like this and we'll pronate the elbow, and that's not what we're looking to do. So when I'm here, I go from here to here, and I want to again make sure that I can still see my palm and this beam of light, and then I go back to wrist extension. So that's how we do wrist cars. After that, I would ask you to do a Pails and Rails. You would do a Pails and Rails for wrist extension by getting in quadruped. This is one way that you can do it. And I'm going to lean forward. So as I lean forward, you're going to gauge where you start to feel that stretch back here, and what you want to avoid is any pinchy feelings in the front. When you feel any pinchy feelings in the front, that means you've got to come back a little bit and then work from right before you feel the pinch. So let's say that I've gone here and I've sat here. When I sit in my passive stretch, I want to be there for 2 minutes. Once you get your wrist into extension, you can then sort of get your body in whatever position is most comfortable for you. For me, when I work wrist extension, I'm about here. This could easily be done from quadruped, though. If I was here, I could still do it, and I could hang out and wait for the 2 minutes to pass. So let's assume that I've now passed the 2-minute mark. At the end of the 2-minute mark, I've sat in the same position. The angle has not changed. The first thing that I would do is I'm going to start to push my fingertips into the ground that way while I keep this position. So nothing will move, but I will start to create force into the ground that way, going into wrist flexion. Attempting to go into wrist flexion. Since I'm having my body weight over here and I'm being aware of how hard I'm pushing hard enough where I can feel the stuff on here start to work, and I'm positioning my body in a way where the angle won't change as I create force. I would ramp that up to my greatest, safest effort over 10 seconds. At the end of the 10 seconds, I would hold for another 5. At the end of that, I would try to lift my fingertips off the ground and try to make this motion happen. So I would be actively trying to extend my wrist now, trying to take my fingertips off the ground. All the stuff on this side should be lighting up and working, and you should feel that there. After I do that for 15 seconds, I would rinse and repeat. I would push it back down for another 15, then bring it back up for another 15. After that, I would not leave the position, and then I would start to do an end range option. In this case, we would do what we call a passive range hold. So I'm going to try to make as much of this motion as I can. I'm actively trying to extend my wrist. And since I'm past a range of motion that I can control, I really have to fight for it. So I'm going to fight for that motion, and I'm going to slowly bring my body back until I rock till my fingertips are off the ground. I slowly come back. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to reestablish that position. I'm going to rock it back, slowly return. So you could easily come up with a training for your wrists in that way. You could do wrist cars, then you could do Pails and Rails, and then you could do passive range holds, and then you could finish off with more wrist cars. Wrist extension is a motion that's very important for a lot of things: crawling, push-ups, planks, jiu-jitsu, or basically any time where you have to assume at least that much wrist extension. Because if my wrist can't go here, then how am I asking it to be here? Because if I can't take it here myself, I know that that stuff isn't strong there, so I can't go and put my body weight on top of it. If I went like this and my wrist went to here, and then I ask it to go to here, I'm insulting my wrist, and bad things will happen. We are the Upgrade guys. We hope you enjoyed this video, and drop a comment below if you did. Tell a friend or hit that like button. We appreciate you.
Upgrade your shit.